supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us give rise to the unsurpassed bodhicitta before teaching. Today, we will continue our discussion of the Udāna Sūtra. Before discussing this sutra, let me mention a few things. It might be really good for everyone to know a little about them. One is that I've been quite busy here lately, mainly coordinating some work. Recently, the local management committee here, as well as other relevant departments, have been constantly looking into this matter. They say there are practitioners from the Han region present here. There are cases of people returning to our Buddhist academy. They attach great importance to this matter and have been investigating through various channels and have even provided some lists of names. Especially this year, the 300 technicians and professional staff who left here have drawn particular attention. Even if someone stays for just one night near the academy or in Sirtar, even just spending one night there, they use phone calls and various tracking methods to continuously search. Moreover, if there are a significant number of individuals returning simultaneously, they are preparing to have a relatively large number of relevant personnel start conducting searches and so on. So perhaps recently I haven't really had the time to do much to look at things in detail, including this scripture, and there have also been some other matters, including things happening within the academy. Day and night, there are always relevant personnel continuously on duty. They have also brought in some people, such as those who have been here before or just passed by this place, especially those who were previously on the list. Many of them are included. Maybe some were just passing by and were taken away as well. So I think in our institute, there probably aren't any of these people, because at that particular time, these individuals were indeed given some financial subsidies. Plus, the requirement not to return for now is very strict. If anyone is indeed hiding here, or if such a situation truly exists, it could be a bit troublesome. Everyone should pay attention to this themselves. This is just a reminder before anything happens, just to give everyone a heads up. Of course, none of us are involved, but it's fine to pass this message along to others. Some people might think there's nothing going on right now, but that's actually not the case. Things have been ongoing all this time. Especially in various places in Tibetan regions, there are practitioners and Buddhists from other ethnic groups. As for these people, they are sent away by various means when they come. Some of their actions might even be rather unusual. It's quite hard to say for sure. Next, we will officially begin discussing the important Udāna Sūtra. We're currently talking about the Udāna Sūtra. Within the chapter on discipline, thus all fetters are extinguished, the mind is liberated without remainder. When the body dissolves, the wise one attains nirvana beyond rebirth. This mainly talks about those individuals who seek nirvana, those who seek the ultimate bliss of nirvana. In fact, the entire process for them involves both nirvana with remainder and nirvana without remainder. As we discussed earlier, if one consistently practices meditation and insight, then in one's own personal continuum, all these spiritual fetters, the 9 types of fetters mentioned previously, are eliminated one by one. After these fetters are eliminated, the mind is freed without remainder. The mind is liberated, and one realizes that karma is created by oneself, as well as the principle of no self or the absence of self. This is called liberation of the mind, because the mind no longer has anything to rely on, including karma or self. None of these remain. Then one attains without remainder. At this point, ignorance, arrogance, and negligence can be eradicated at their root. So, liberation of the mind mainly refers to the path of seeing. Attaining without remainder means the qualities achieved from the path of cultivation up to the path of no more learning. For the wise one, when the body is destroyed, Actually, ki, body, has several meanings here. One specifically refers to our physical form, the body. Another refers to the knots of afflictions and ignorance. The 9 knots are also commonly referred to as the body, and they also represent the material form among the 5 aggregates. When these fundamental components are destroyed, that is, when this particular type of body of the same kind ceases to exist and is destroyed. Originally sentient beings, each person has their own body, but when true realization is attained, this body is also destroyed. Then, for such a truly wise one, there is absolutely no need for the body itself to undergo rebirth again. However, in reality it appears as if there is a similar physical body, nirvana with remainder. For one who has attained this nirvana with remainder, they attain the ultimate nirvana of separation from all rebirths. What exactly do they attain? They are completely free from repeated rebirths. Repeated rebirths means that if we still have karma and afflictions, we must continue to cycle in samsara, being reborn again and again, repeatedly taking up and entering new existences. So if one truly attains this profound state, being completely free from all afflictions and possessing all-encompassing wisdom, such a person has in fact already attained the nirvana without remainder, where there is no longer any need to be reborn in samsara. As for nirvana without remainder, your body will never again undergo any kind of transmigration. That is the meaning. This is the literal explanation. It seems that this story doesn't have any substantial content at all, but it is said that there was a bhikshu named Vimala, stainless. This bhikshu Vimala was surrounded by many relatives, and in the end he ultimately manifested nirvana. When he manifested nirvana, those relatives asked the Buddha, "Where has our venerable bhikshu Vimala gone?" Then the Buddha, in another way, explained this profound verse and its true meaning to everyone present. So the complete and entire meaning of the verse here is that if we now earnestly begin to understand and practice through the 3 trainings of discipline, concentration and wisdom, in this way one can attain nirvana to varying degrees, achieving both nirvana with and without remainder. First, one may attain nirvana with remainder, then without. This distinction between nirvana with remainder and without remainder can also be readily found in the biographies of many other truly great masters. There was one called, I think he was from the Gelug school, the great Compassion Dharma king, back in the Yongle era. At that particular time, he was widely said to be one of Master Tsongkhapa's chief and prominent disciples. Once he traveled to Beijing, probably to transmit the Dharma to the emperor. On his way back, when he reached the Qinghai area, he discovered that Master Tsongkhapa had already manifested parinirvana. He then told his disciples, "Take care of my body. I am going to leave using my illusory body." Such occurrences were quite common for him. Each time he left, it would be for 2 or 3 days. At most, he would return within 3 days. His body could always recover, as it typically would, in its usual manner. But at that time, perhaps, it was not clear whether he had gone to Master Tsongkhapa's parinirvana ceremony or not. It was still uncertain. It wasn't until the 6th day that he still hadn't returned. The disciple thought that perhaps this time the master had truly passed away. It wouldn't be good to wait too long either, so on the 6th day they cremated his body. After the cremation, on the 7th day, the master returned using his illusory body. When he eventually returned, his physical remains were already completely gone. Since there was nothing left, he appeared to complain, saying, "This foolish disciple, this stupid disciple. Originally, I was just temporarily using my remaining physical body to benefit all sentient beings, and then, by means of the final nirvana, to ultimately attain complete accomplishment. But now even the body I relied on is gone." Later he spent an entire night on a vibrant red flower and finally departed for Tushita heaven. It is said that later this red flower, quite incredibly, did not wither for 3 years. Eventually people at that place built a significant and important monastery, which was officially called the Honghua Monastery. I looked into it before, and it seems that this monastery was established 600 years ago. During the Yongle era, this monastery. So this history should be accurate, because Master Tsongkhapa lived about 600 years ago from now. The timeline should match up. Although this was mentioned by some great masters in the past, or explained in certain books, I haven't seen it in the authentic works of Master Tsongkhapa or other great masters like Jangchup Choje, that is the great compassionate Dharma King. At that time, it seems the title of Dharma King was also bestowed upon him by the emperor. So back then he relied on an emanation body to leave, and later was unable to return. There was such a situation. Also, in the biography of Khenpo Acho from earlier times, there is no mention of it either. At that time, Khenpo Acho was there when he was transmitting the teachings orally. In our Seda region, there was someone named Jangchup Dorje, back when religious activities first reopened. There was a black and white photograph of him with flowing dark hair, quite large, and his eyes looked like ancient times. Some people say this photo was taken of his statue, while others say it is an actual photograph. In any case, as for him, he himself never went anywhere, but later he told his disciples, "This time when I went to see Khenpo Acho, what exactly did I receive? I received all the profound oral transmission teachings." The disciples then asked, "But you haven't gone anywhere at all. How did you receive them? You haven't been anywhere recently." He said, "I went there by relying on my emanation body." Later on, it was also widely said that Khenpo Acho had also mentioned this point. Recently, Jangchup Dorje came to see me, received the oral transmission here. Later, it seems in the Seda and Golog regions, some people who went to receive the oral transmission, arriving Khenpo Acho's place, the Khenpo said, "You can go to your local dorje and receive the oral transmission teachings there." Many revered masters in the past have also stated this very important point. This should also be true. Great monks and accomplished masters, by relying on their emanation bodies, have gone to other masters, and after attaining the great path of accumulation, they can go to countless vast pure lands to listen to and receive the Dharma. Such phenomena do exist. So, as for Yamgondori, I'm not sure if this is actually mentioned in his biography, but in general there are indeed such accounts. Yamgondori should be the youngest son of the first Dudjom Rinpoche, right? He is said to be a reincarnation of one of the 8 great bodhisattvas. The first one, Dudrupchen Jigme Tenpe Nyima. The Dudrupchen Jigme Tenpe Nyima we mentioned earlier is... At that time, Patrul Rinpoche said there is now some hope for the Nyingma teachings. Why is there hope? When Dodrupchen Tenpe Nyima was 8 years old, he taught the Bodhicaryavatara from memory, showing this Dharma lineage should still exist. Then Lama Pema Dundul from Shinlong had already manifested the rainbow body accomplishment in a certain place, which shows that this realization is indeed present and so on. That's what was said. So, I think among them there are many remarkable individuals, including the Dakini Serakandro. In the biography of Serakandro, the Dakini, it talks about the great Master Jeme Rinpoche. Master Jeme was also truly extraordinary. Now, their collected teachings, the instructions on Vajrayana and Dzogchen are abundant. So we also rely on our own practice, and it is very possible that what is described in the Shravakayana, such as the nirvana with remainder or without remainder, as explained in the Mahayana, relying on this impure body, one can in fact benefit and liberate many sentient beings. In the Mayajala Tantra, where it is explained that, although it appears to be an ordinary person, in reality their inner wisdom has already matured and attained full realization. There is such a principle as well.
Ganjik Tsatram Danzan Dan Shirim Daksam Labgum De Shin the Trimin Tarshin Jang Long Med Yang Chit Zapper Zanjir Dan Chapin Chang Later Jang Lipan Shirv Damba Dan Ditki Yearly
If one skillfully cultivates the three trainings of discipline, concentration, and wisdom, one attains ultimate purity, is free from afflictions, eliminates future existence, is liberated from craving and attachment, abandons the body, is endowed with wisdom, and transcends the realm of Mara, shining like the sun's radiance. What is the main point being discussed here? At that particular time, there was a lay practitioner who seemed to be a dedicated sun worshipper, because in India there are indeed all kinds of diverse sects. And this devoted sun worshipper asked the Venerable Shakyamuni Buddha in this world who truly is like the sun. Because he himself greatly revered the sun, he asked, "Who is like the sun?" At that time, the Buddha responded to him with this verse: "The one who is truly like the sun." In our world, people talk about who or what is the red sun, who is like the sun. And here it is explained that the true achiever of the three trainings is like the sun. So what exactly does this mean? Because his original intention was that it seems he meant across the entire earth, someone whose fame spreads far and wide, who is dazzling and radiant, whose Buddha light shines everywhere. Who exactly is this remarkable person? Next, it talks about those who possess discipline, those who diligently cultivate the three trainings. Such people are like the sun. This is the main point being explained here. If a person practices well, if some of us are dedicated practitioners and we are truly good at both diligently studying and actively practicing, then the most important thing is indeed discipline. Discipline refers to the various precepts found in the Pratimoksha, the different rules and regulations mentioned there. Then concentration. Concentration refers to a virtuous mind, one that is not distracted among wholesome qualities. Then wisdom, the ability to understand the true nature of all things, and to actually put this understanding into practice. These are the three trainings. Such a person earnestly studies and practices the three trainings of discipline, concentration, and wisdom, and attains complete purity. If one is pure, then all that should be abandoned. All these obstacles are eliminated. Then one attains the ultimate result. To attain the ultimate result means that in the end, all afflictions and latent tendencies, all have been completely eradicated and his wisdom fully manifested. His mind is then free from agitation and burning afflictions. Ultimately, he becomes the last exister with no future rebirths to come, no longer subject to the cycle of birth and death. He is liberated from the bondage of craving and attachment. He has already been liberated from the three realms, where the fundamental and primary bondage is craving and attachment. This mind of craving has already been cut off. He abandons the body and possesses wisdom, giving up the obstructive, contaminated body of the three realms. Then he possesses the wisdom of exhaustion and the wisdom of no birth. This is what we often talk about. Such a person has transcended the realm of the four Maras. Even though he dwells within the world, he will not be destroyed by the four evil demonic forces of Maras. A person like this is truly just like the radiant sun, the brilliant sun in this vast and beautiful world, shining brightly in a perfectly cloudless, expansive, and magnificent sky. When the radiant and glorious sun appears, it completely dispels all darkness in the 10 directions and allows all sentient beings to clearly see the brilliant light. It can illuminate the path ahead and is extremely meaningful. Therefore, such a bodhisattva, such a practitioner in the world is very prominent. He may also achieve fame and wealth as well as a successful career. His various undertakings are vast and far-reaching. In fact, in our world, indeed truly whether among worldly people or among practitioners, there are also those who are like the sun. For example, in the past, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, great masters like Mipham Rinpoche and Vimala Mitra, as well as many other great masters from various schools, all appear to be just like ordinary everyday people in this world, but in reality they are truly like the brilliant sun, dispelling the darkness of ignorance in the hearts of countless sentient beings, allowing them to attain liberation spontaneously. such great beings who shine like the sun over the world, there are also many such masters. In the Udāna Sūtra, it is stated, when clouds clear, sunlight appears and deep darkness is completely dispelled. Likewise, the wisdom sun of the Tathagata forever eliminates the obstacles of birth and death. Therefore, the truly wise and illuminating light of the Tathagata's profound wisdom actually forever dispels all kinds of obstacles of birth and death in the continuum of sentient beings. This analogy is used to illustrate that just like the brilliant sun without any clouds, it can completely and utterly dispel all layers of darkness into the vast sky. There are also some, including in the ancient Chuyaojing, Udāna Varga, that mention the sun possesses the ability to be free from pervasive dense smoke, billowing obscuring clouds, swirling impenetrable dust, thick menacing fog, as well as the formidable colossal obstacles caused by the hands of mythical Asuras. We often talk about solar eclipses where the Asura Rahu covers the sun, these kinds of things. In the very same way, for practitioners, to be free from greed, ignorance, doubt, arrogance, and so on. These 5 kinds of obstacles. There is also the analogy of the sun here. This is also how it is also explained in the Chuyaojing Udāna Varga. A bhikshu who is negligent and arrogant, both inwardly and outwardly, will not be able to fully accomplish discipline, meditation, and wisdom. Here, this is the opposite of what was just mentioned. Previously, the bhikshu was likened to the sun, which was very remarkable. But in this case, it is also about the person who just believed in the sun, who developed faith in some of the principles taught by the Buddha, and then continued to ask further questions. You said that observing the precepts brings such good results. So what kinds of obstacles are there? How should one practice in order to achieve perfection? The Buddha said that one must properly uphold the precepts and stay away from all wrong paths. He continued to ask, you said to stay away from all wrong paths, or to avoid all kinds of sorcery. But what exactly does that truly mean? The Buddha then recited this verse. So what does it indeed mean? As a bhikshu, internally, of course, bhikshu here just represents a monastic person. In actual fact, it refers to any dedicated practitioner. In the broader sense, it means a bhikshu who practices virtuous deeds. The term long also carries the meaning of practicing virtuous actions. It is about actively bringing forth inherent goodness from one's own true nature. This too is a way of being a practitioner. Speaking broadly, all practitioners can be interpreted in this way, even indirectly. Of course, if we translate it literally, a monastic bhikshu, so as a bhikshu, if one is truly negligent and arrogant, both internally and externally, in that particular case, one's discipline, concentration, and wisdom cannot be perfected. As mentioned in the commentary, the meaning is that our inner mind becomes scattered outwardly. For example, my mind follows the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, and through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, it chases after external forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches. It becomes scattered among the 5 sense objects. When the mind is scattered, I am unable to abide in a state of non-negligence. Then I begin to become quite negligent, and then a sense of arrogance starts to slowly arise. There is no true inner virtue or genuine merit at all. As it seems to be stated in this commentary, it's like a hollow reed, completely empty inside with only an external appearance, nothing more. The inner virtue is not truly full, and outwardly many kinds of distractions arise, all sorts of various arrogance as well. With such external distractions, then our internal discipline, our concentration, and our wisdom, these 3 essential trainings can never truly be perfected at their very root. It's simply impossible. So here, the Buddha also said that if we ourselves are not negligent, if we are truly mindful and attentive in our actions and thoughts, without arrogance and with a particularly devout heart, and then begin to practice, then it is possible to perfect the 3 trainings. In this world, one can become a dharma propagator and benefactor to sentient beings, like the sun. On the other hand, if we are unable to effectively subdue and control our own minds, and if we cannot adequately restrain our 5 fundamental senses, then it is possible that negligence will arise right from the very beginning. As for us, everyone should know this point. Whether one is a dedicated monastic or a diligent practitioner, it is beneficial to go out and relax a little, to unwind and refresh oneself. Cannot be completely called negligence, but to relax a bit and let the body and mind become clear and calm, this is necessary. This is also stated in the Bodhicariyavatara. However, if it becomes an excessive habit, it is not very good either. I have seen many such cases, whether monastics or practitioners. It seems like they enthusiastically go out to play or travel, and everyone is very much interested in this particular aspect. On the other hand, when it comes to internal study, deep contemplation, and dedicated practice, it is only done on the surface because it has to be, but in reality there is no lasting commitment. Especially when there is even a slight, enticing opportunity, one immediately puts aside all the most important things and just desperately wants to go out and have fun, just simply go out and enjoy themselves. It was the same even when His Holiness was still around. In summer, for example, within a few days it was fine to occasionally go out and have fun. But in reality, if it goes on too long, or if this happens too often, it's not very good either. I've heard that some Khenpos and Khenmos often take a break to have fun every few days, or go relax every few days. But there really isn't that much time for relaxation. It's not like we're people locked up in prison either. If things are really that restrictive, then why bother becoming a monastic? Why bother practicing? Just like it says in the Lamp of Certainty, all sentient beings in the 3 realms have already relaxed. There's no need to encourage more relaxation. There's no need to be too relaxed. This is just our habitual tendency. I see that there are also differences between each class. In some classes, if the Khenpo or Khenmo is especially relaxed, then every time there's even a little bit of, as long as they have free time, they truly want to relax. Perhaps recently, on the women's side, I'm not sure if there are any objections about this specifically saying that when the medicine Buddha star appears, in the past, the nuns' side would always relax for several days. I heard that in previous years, if some Khenmos really didn't allow any relaxation at all, people were especially dissatisfied and even resentful. They would say about the people below, "Oh, this person doesn't understand the rules." They would even bring up things from when His Holiness was alive and so on, or when such and such great master was alive and so on. They would use scriptural and logical reasoning every day to start justifying the basis for relaxation. But I think it's fine either way. Back when His Holiness was alive, at the beginning there wasn't a celebration for New Year, except chalk offerings and reciting precepts. When it was time to celebrate New Year or Spring Festival, we never did anything. We didn't even know when New Year was. We didn't know when Spring Festival was celebrated. Initially, we just didn't know. Later on, when there were more disciples, His Holiness also allowed 1 or 2 days of relaxation. Now, in our academy, in the past, for example, the summer grassland gathering was, initially it was 5 days, then it subsequently became 10 days, then 11 days. This year because this year is a rather special situation, it's 15 days. I'm worried that from next year it will be 15 or 16 days again. When shortening the time, many people are unwilling, but when relaxing and extending it, everyone is very willing. Actually, this isn't a very good phenomenon, because inside, we like to relax, not to study, contemplate, and practice the Dharma. We should really have some self-discipline. So this time for us as well, maybe there's no way to relax. Our time here is limited, because over there, His Holiness had at that particular time was that there was delicious sea buckthorn to eat nearby. That was indeed the main purpose. It's perfectly fine to go out for a little while during the day. However, you should come back at night. I remember His Holiness said this at that particular time. But if you have special circumstances, you can find some Khenmos anyway. It might be better to receive the transmission. Other than that, I haven't managed either side. I haven't been involved in management at all. It's all handled by the Academic Affairs Office. But the Academic Affairs Office, the policies also change with different people in charge at different times. New times bring new policies after all, so I'm not sure, I don't understand management system. But what I do know is when we have even a little bit of time, opportunities like this are very rare. I'm also worried that maybe, just like now, it could be like the past few years, where many opportunities suddenly disappeared. Suddenly everything was shut down. It's like when our computer crashes, suddenly it won't open anymore. That's possible. In the past, in different situations, I've talked about these as well. No matter what, the point here is not to be overly negligent. If you keep being negligent, you'll always be a being of samsara, just like it says in the Udāna Sūtra, I think. If you don't stop being negligent, you'll always remain a being of samsara. As a being of samsara, we've been since beginningless time. So there's no need to fight for it, right? Next, we will explore the topic of pure and impure discipline, which will be explained through various illustrative analogies. When clouds cover the sky, rain falls. When the sky is clear, rain does not fall. Therefore, we should remove the covering obstacles just as rain does not fall when the sky is clear. This is like a story from the city of Kaushambi, where there once lived a practitioner named Udāna. At that time, when he committed some offenses, he did not confess and repent. Then the monks asked him, "Since you have committed these offenses, why don't you properly confess and repent?" He replied, "I haven't noticed any signs of wrongdoing, because whether we break precepts or commit any kind of offense, these signs are not something you can just find." Just as Nagarjuna Bodhisattva said, after you commit an offense, it's not like cutting your body with a knife, where you can immediately see the mark. It's impossible. So at that time, he said, he simply hadn't noticed such a phenomenon. Later, these monks reported this to the Buddha. The Buddha then spoke this verse. The meaning is that if within our sky the space is already covered and dark, ominous clouds begin to gather, then, as a consequence, rain will certainly fall from the sky. After a while, the rain passes and the sky clears, becoming bright and cloudless. If there are no clouds, then the rain simply can't fall either. In this particular way, we can clearly say that below, this can be explained both as a metaphor and its meaning. If we speak in terms of metaphor, so if you try every possible way to clear away the clouds and mist in the sky, the rain simply won't fall at all. If you truly like something or are holding some important event or whatever you're doing absolutely requires that it doesn't rain. If it doesn't rain, in the past, for example, during the summer season, we would typically set up black tents. And we did this once every single year. At that time, it absolutely couldn't rain. If it rained, it would be a big hassle. There were practitioners nearby, and we'd ask them to recite mantras, hoping that it wouldn't rain that day. Sometimes it really did work. There were cases like that. So if you don't want it to rain, nowadays it seems there are some other methods, like shooting something into the sky so that it temporarily doesn't rain. To use an analogy, if you really don't want it to rain, you simply find a way to dispel the threatening clouds away, and then the rain won't fall. Or, through sincere confession and spiritual practice, the obstacles caused by our faults can be removed, thereby allowing you to realize the Dharma teachings, such as the fundamental Four Noble Truths. In this way, the heavy rain of afflictions will not fall upon you. So it's also possible to explain it a bit from this perspective. Thus, when a monk constantly maintains such awareness and safeguards the purity of his precepts, he will swiftly attain purity on the path to nirvana. This is an analogy from earlier. The following is an explanation of it. In terms of meaning, always be mindful in this way. Always, at any time, to be constantly aware. Aware of what exactly? Aware of the merits of upholding precepts and the faults of breaking them. After understanding the principle of what to adopt and what to abandon, then, as a practitioner or a bhikshu, one should always uphold the pure precepts within one's own spiritual continuum. The Buddha also said in the sutras that one should confess and repent of one's past misdeeds and wrongdoings. While merits should be kept hidden, one should not show off one's virtues in front of others. For example, saying, I recited so much today, or I attained this today, or even sharing a good dream you had, and telling everyone about it everywhere is not very appropriate. Therefore, for those individuals who uphold pure precepts, it is important to carefully guard one's sense faculties, and at the very same time diligently cultivate and practice. In this significant way, on the profound path to nirvana, in a very short period of time, in the shortest possible time, one can attain perfect and pure merit. Such merit can only be obtained through sincere practice. Those who diligently cultivate wisdom delight in listening to and teaching the Dharma, and by carefully gathering their thoughts for even a moment, they can quickly realize nirvana. This profound statement should be from the Sutra of Former Events, which was translated in the past by Master Xuanzang. He was indeed the one who translated it. There is also a sacred sutra that speaks in precisely this way. Among them, as we often say, those who practice diligently and possess wisdom and ability should enjoy listening to the Dharma and enjoy teaching the Dharma. As for one's own deluded thoughts, if such thoughts are immediately cut off, what can be quickly attained? Nirvana can be attained. But among these there is the aspect of gathering the mind, which means these deluded and mistaken thoughts should be completely eliminated, right? In this way, one can truly attain. In other words, how should this be explained? By practicing diligently to clear away these discriminating thoughts. To temporarily eliminate these discriminating thoughts and to practice within a short period of time, perhaps that's what it means. That should be the meaning. At that time, Venerable Ananda was in a quiet place, contemplating and practicing the Dharma. Suddenly, the scent of flowers drifted over, a particularly wonderful fragrance. At that time, he just thought to himself, saying that the fragrance of these flowers usually drifts along with the direction of the wind, carried over by the wind. But in this world, is there another kind of fragrance, perhaps? One that truly goes against the direction of the wind, not along with the direction of the wind. Could a fragrance travel against the wind? Could it be carried that way? Later, the Buddha also spoke about this, including the pure precepts we uphold, such as taking the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. The virtuous fragrance of observing these precepts, even if not in the direction of the prevailing wind, but in the opposite direction, going against the current, it can still be carried and spread. This is how it is.
Chandan me tor jana ya wa chen ji zu sheng de zhi de nar mi me tor chu de ji nar mi me tor jana re zhi de me tor jana wa chen ji zu sheng tar nar mi me tor chu de ji de der nar mi me tor la ka jang zhi kan de che ber ke ba de Isn't Kibay or Nyanchuk that are here they chap? Narmi met, ya. Narmi met, Holaka, Chism can the chapter. Sartiel of Sigetan. Garchet. Tata Chakaching in some. Sartiel of Sutmati lost some ship you walk that just a general gives check. Chicken. 지가 따로 노리가 이렇게 제가 노총 작가 한번 개발적선이 나도 제가 이렇게 다 하는 거지겠어.
How exactly should this truly be explained? It's very much like the fragrance of these lovely flowers indeed. The scent of flowers does not travel against the prevailing wind. Instead, it drifts and spreads along with the direction of the breeze. Similarly, the fragrances of precious agar wood and sandalwood, their fragrances are the same way. It seems that in the Buddhist scriptures there are some particular flowers whose fragrance can travel 100 yojanas even against the wind. But for most flowers, their scent can travel 500 yojanas when drifting in the direction of the wind. There are such cases. But the fragrance of a virtuous person can go against. So one who practices well, a highly virtuous monk with pure precepts, has this kind of fragrance. There is also this lovely fragrance here. They may have the distinct and pure scent of virtuous precepts on their bodies, as well as various other fragrances of great virtuous ones. This also includes their reputation and their merits as well further. Even non-human beings and celestial deities widely spread it around, so their wondrous fragrance is like the bright, luminous moon in the autumn sky, visible to everyone in the world, and when people see it, they feel very comfortable, pleased, and content. In the same way, whether it's a highly virtuous monk or the wondrous fragrance of someone who upholds pure precepts can be experienced throughout the entire vast world. Even the celestial beings especially praise it. In the past, this concept was often discussed within the Vinaya texts or somewhere else. At that time, the Venerable Mahakashyapa. When Venerable Mahakashyapa was still a layperson, his family was especially well off. He had never eaten any food of poor quality. Later, after he became a monk at Vulture Peak, because the living conditions for practitioners were not very good either. So, with a compassionate intention, he deliberately went out of his way to perfect the merit, specifically for the benefit of a struggling family, and from them he graciously received some rather poor quality food. Afterwards, he appeared to be completely unable to digest it, unfortunately. In other words, he had diarrhea, he was maybe felt unwell, so he was sick and bedridden for a while, unable to attend classes or go out to recite sutras. Later, when the Buddha found out about this, he told Maudgalyayana, "Go and take a look." He said, "I heard Venerable Kashyapa is ill." Maudgalyayana went. After he arrived, he saw that Kashyapa was alone, with no one to take care of him. Later, the Buddha came over to ask him as well. When he asked, Kashyapa's illness was quite serious, but his mind and spiritual practice were not hindered in any way at all. At that very moment, the Buddha saw the divine Indra, who was also sitting respectfully behind the Venerable Kashyapa. He then asked, "You celestial beings, aren't you especially fond of pure and clean places?" So in this particular case, perhaps because he had been quite ill for a long period of time, the place was probably rather smelly in various ways. "Why are you staying with Venerable Kashyapa?" It seems that, as I recall, they always spoke to each other in the form of verses. At that time, Indra said, "I have no attachment to the smells of worldly bodies. I'm not attached to them at all. But what I like is the fragrance of pure precepts. That's why, even in the heavenly realms, I could smell this kind of wonderful fragrance. So I came here," and so on. There is a lot more detail later on, but I won't elaborate. These stories also clearly illustrate that the fragrance of pure precepts can spread everywhere, no matter where you are. In the alternative translation of the miscellaneous Agama Sutra, it says, "Whether man or woman, those who uphold the 5 precepts, such is the fragrance of precepts which can be sensed by all, whether favorable or not." This means that if one is a virtuous man or woman, if a devoted layperson receives the 5 pure precepts, then the fragrance of these pure precepts can truly spread both with and against the prevailing wind, reaching far and wide. So in our world, not to mention monastics who uphold pure precepts, they become a field of merit for humans and celestial beings alike, and are worthy of praise from all humans and celestial beings, unless perhaps during some special era. At that time it seemed that even those monastics who upheld pure and strict precepts would still be subjected to certain punishments. That day, we went to a nearby place where His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche was supposed to, I think this is mentioned in his biography, he was about to be criticized and denounced, but then that leader died next day. Otherwise, at that time, His Holiness was also a thorn in their side. Why was that? because he never conformed to worldly ways or returned to lay life, nor did he engage in all sorts of base or inferior actions. So I truly think that in our world, perhaps in very special eras or under quite specific circumstances, one might indeed suffer certain harm. But aside from that, in the human and celestial realms, one receives praise, admiration, offerings, respect, and service. There is no doubt about this. So for some of our monastics who have gone out into the wider world, if the environment truly allows, they should, as much as possible, endeavor to continue their practice. Cherish their rare and precious monastic robes. It's best not to change out of them, otherwise, if you spend too long wearing other clothes, in the end, you might even forget that you are a monastic. Your hair grows out, your clothes change. Of course, in special times, there's nothing you can do. During the Cultural Revolution, for example, most of the masters and monks in Tibet did appear this way outwardly. I have met some elder great masters, and at that time they manifested in this way. If it weren't for such circumstances, some people, there is even the slightest opportunity, immediately use it as an excuse. Now, because it's a special time, actually, if you are alone somewhere, wear monastic robes, no one will come after you. But using the excuse of special circumstances, one truly starts to prefer their comfortable old clothes again. Indeed, for you, just for you. Perhaps these habits are quite strong, just a slight reminder, and you immediately revert to your original state. So we too should, on one hand, go along with the world and employ skillful means as needed. But on the other hand, we should know for ourselves that in special times in the past, for more than 20 years, in one's own mind stream, whether it be precepts or outward appearance, one should apply right mindfulness and awareness to guard and protect their precious sense faculties. All the more so, in such a brief era, we need to remind ourselves of these crucial principles.
Yarpo tana zandan dan la tang mala garpuji rignan the takbets trimchum pertuchin.
The agarwood and the fragrant sandalwood, the blue lotus and the jasmine fragrance, the scent of these kinds of incense cannot compare to the fragrance of moral discipline. This means that it seems like just now, when Ananda entered meditation, the following 5 verses were all spoken by the Buddha at that time. This should be the second verse. It says agarwood and sandalwood, as well as the fragrance of blue lotus and jasmine flowers, are considered to be extremely fragrant in the world, but these kinds of scents simply cannot compare to the supreme fragrance of pure moral discipline. It far surpasses these worldly fragrances. Why is that? Because when it comes to pure moral discipline, in both this life and future lives, one receives the praise of noble beings, and also experiences this kind of happiness oneself. Therefore, this particular kind of fragrance is very meaningful within our diverse world. This is in all texts, including in praise of precepts. The verse was composed by Karma Wangpo Danzeng Nuo Wu. He was an extremely accomplished upholder of the precepts. What he taught and the commentary was composed by His Holiness's Guru, Toga Rinpoche. He authored it. It seems that in the entire world, this is currently the only surviving work of its kind. So we have discussed this before, and have talked about it on several different occasions and have translated it. Sometimes we should take a look at it. What are the merits of upholding the precepts? What are the faults of not upholding them? The entire treatise is a comparison of faults and merits. There are many aspects of faults and merits, including that if one truly upholds pure precepts, even if one has not gained any merit from hearing, contemplating, or practicing, apart from liberation, there is no other destination. So this is something that we should definitely study and look into ourselves, if at all possible. Whether we are monastics or lay people, we should all consider this seriously. Precepts are the most fundamental basis for all merit. If this fundamental aspect is truly lacking, then it becomes very difficult indeed to speak of many other significant merits or positive attributes.
Yarpu Zandan Ganyanbu, Zhusongdana Chungana, Tsitrim Dambi Zhusonggang, Dinandadam Turi Kap.
Agarwood and sandalwood, their fragrance is actually quite faint, but the fragrance of one who upholds the precepts spreads throughout the human and heavenly realms. Here it says that agarwood and sandalwood, as well as others too, including jasmine and Tibetan incense mentioned earlier, the scent of these incenses is, relatively speaking, quite faint and weak. In the whole world, they can only fill your own room with a pleasant fragrance, offering a captivating and inviting aroma that gently fills the air much as possible. But beyond that, it is very, very difficult indeed. So the specific example I gave you the other day, was specially made at my request at that time. It wasn't made for profit, but the production cost is relatively high. I think it was around 70 yuan or something. It's called divine incense. In the past, Tenzin Rinpoche made one, but whether it was made later on, I'm not sure what happened. Actually, if it is made, at that time we also followed Guru Rinpoche's ritual manual. His formula contains 113 ingredients. At that time, there were some great masters, some of whom have now passed away. They were the ones who helped formulate it. After it was made, all the ingredients inside were genuine. It wasn't made for any other purpose, just like that. After it was finished, because nowadays we also often use incense ourselves, but when using incense, many of them are unpleasant. Some are made up of all kinds of various chemical substances. I've also thoroughly researched some of them myself, but many of them have a very strong fragrance, but contain all sorts of different scents inside. So they're not necessarily good for the body. And incense with true Buddhist meaning is quite rare. That's precisely why I made a special effort to create this particular item. Also, whether it's burning or offering incense, our teacher, Khenpo Rinpoche, also had a practice for this. I think the Academy also recites it, the one where you put it in a box and recite while letting the incense smoke rise. There were some old lamas and old practitioners nearby. They would often use this. When they themselves were ill, using this incense for fumigation was very effective. So the Vajra words of Mifam Rinpoche were placed inside it. That box always contains such things. So in the foreseeable future, for ourselves, no matter which truly great master it is, or if it possesses a clear and established lineage, actually looking at it now, sometimes it's quite convenient, including Sami or Gangdis, and many places in Lhasa as well. If it is authentic, nowadays it's also very convenient, thanks to the internet. You can purchase it right now and acquire it from virtually anywhere, especially some sacred trees originating from holy mountains, like cypress trees and all kinds of other trees. These trees, maybe the people doing business are promoting them just to sell these things and advertising them to everyone. But if you really want to do it properly, there are some things in there, like the teachings related to Guru Padmasambhava and also teachings from previous great masters. There are indeed some authentic formulas. This is still very important. So perhaps for many of us, when we often use it, we might find ourselves in a situation where we also recite some prayers ourselves and visualize a bit, visualizing the impurities and stains on our own bodies, removing them through this method, which is also very necessary. The fragrance of those who keep pure precepts pervades the human and heavenly realms. This fragrance of discipline is not like the conventional kind of incense we have just discussed. Instead, it pervades the entirety of the vast world around us. In the past, the ancient Lotus Sutra also mentioned that the exquisite fragrance of those who uphold the sacred sutra is like the scent of the Utpala flower. This refers to the person who recites the sutra, who possesses this fragrance of discipline, this scent. And in the Platform Sutra, it also talks about 5 kinds of fragrance. Fragrance of morality, concentration and wisdom, as well as liberation and knowledge and view of liberation. These are also extremely beneficial. We should seek them within, not look for them outside. It is said this way as well. There are also other sources, including the Ekotara Agama, which states, the wondrous fragrance of morality is perceived in all 10 directions. This wondrous fragrance of discipline can be sensed throughout all worlds in the 10 directions, including the heavenly realms. It is just like what Shakra, Lord of the Devas, perceived earlier. This is very important.
yang tag sibar nam chur na dchi lam nar nin manjir.
Not be negligent, but uphold pure precepts, with right understanding and liberation, not fall into the path of demons. This should be a summation of what was mentioned above. Therefore, one should not be negligent and should uphold pure precepts, and also maintain correct knowledge and right view, free from delusion. In this particular way, one can truly attain complete liberation from the profound afflictions of samsara within the three realms. First, as previously mentioned, in the previous section it spoke about not being negligent, and in this section it discusses upholding pure precepts, as well as possessing undistorted, accurate right knowledge and wisdom. With this right knowledge and wisdom, all contaminated phenomena will begin to be eliminated, and one attains liberation through uncontaminated wisdom. In this way, we will not fall into the demonic path, whether it's the Mara of the heavens or other worldly Maras. We will not enter these demonic paths. Thus, our practice will proceed smoothly, and our body and mind will be healthy and well. Those individuals who uphold pure and righteous precepts are great in this entire world. However, in this age of the Dharma's decline, due to all sorts of external adverse conditions, which keep emerging one after another, in this way, there may be fewer and fewer true practitioners in the future. For instance, nowadays in China, there are less than 200,000 ordained monastics. Out of 1.4 billion people, there are less than 200,000, yet people still say there are too many. In fact, this group of monastics is rather vulnerable, and people still say it should be reduced. They say it's not good if there are too many people in the monastery. But actually having more monastics is beneficial for the whole world, for society, and for morality as well, not necessarily. Of course, among monastics, there are also some who are not so good. This is something the Buddha also mentioned in the sutras, using the analogy of parasites on a lion's body to describe Buddhist followers within Buddhism itself, who end up destroying their own teachings. The Buddha spoke about this over 2,500 years ago. He said this back then. But this doesn't mean all monastic communities are bad. If one monastic is not good, and then you say all monastics are bad, then for any other group, it would be impossible for them to survive. Within every group, there are corrupt individuals or lawbreakers, and there are plenty of them well. So if we look back to the past, to earlier periods, to some great kings and great Dharma kings, when they were protecting their countries, monastics truly made significant contributions to society. Those contributions were substantial. Some think if too many monastics, it seems like who is going to support them? From a certain perspective, monastics are a profession of wisdom. Having more teachers is not a problem, nor are more scientists. Monastics, they are a symbol of a certain identity. If the spread of their inner wisdom increases, it really shouldn't have any negative impact on society. Of course, if our overall orientation is to view monastics as a group of bad people, then perhaps in the future the number of monastic communities will keep decreasing, but if they keep decreasing, it might bring peace, or it might bring significant loss to this world. It's hard to say. The fundamental laws of this world are sometimes a truly mysterious and intricate set of theories in themselves.
Dunu devran rolam dever tagshid lamda la rabda jikte gumni jang dijin chang arpawra ji. This is the path of peace and happiness. This is the path of purity. Having entered and practiced it, one severs the bonds of Mara. The fundamental principles mentioned earlier are actually due to being free from negligence and are extremely joyful. This is a path that brings happiness both in this life and in future lives. So here it is a particularly pure path for cutting off afflictions. If we enter into such a practice of the three trainings and follow such a path, upholding the pure precepts and continue to practice, also cultivating calm, abiding and insight, then what can we cut off? We can cut off primarily the 4 kinds of demons and all the binding bonds of every single kind of demon. When we become a truly good and pure monastic and become a practitioner who is not negligent, who loves to study regularly and sees the true nature of this world in this way, one will be happy in this life and in future lives as well. In fact, such a person will not be disturbed by demons. A true practitioner, even in death, is joyful and untroubled, especially if one maintains pure precepts. After death, one will certainly be reborn in a pure land. And while alive, no matter if others slander him, spread rumors about him, or if he faces all kinds of adverse conditions, attacks, and so on, in reality it's like shooting arrows into empty space. It has no effect, just like that. For him, there are absolutely no obstacles, no personal benefit or potential harm, truly nothing at all. So, for some dedicated practitioners, others various debates. For example, in the past, the first Dojom Rinpoche and his eldest son, Danpe Nyima was especially well versed in logic and the 5 great treatises. He went out to study, and after returning, the two father and son debated. At the beginning, Danpe Nyima debated extremely well, and he was also very eloquent. He used all kinds of reasoning and scriptural teachings, things like that. Later, Dojom Rinpoche rested in his own awareness and said, "All of your efforts cannot harm my vast, luminous, uncontrived yogic state at all." After that, no matter how his son debated with him, it seemed there was nothing that could break through. He simply remained in a state of luminosity. Every word he spoke, he responded with the highest wisdom, dealing with his son in this way. In the end, his son was left with no options. There are also such accounts. So those who truly uphold pure discipline, who are diligent and excellent practitioners, no matter what kind of external circumstances they face, even if you are driven to a very remote place, for you, wherever you are, you can take root there, sprout, blossom, and bear fruit. In the end, you might even nurture many talented people. If that's not the case, even if you spend all your days in the monastic community, it may not necessarily be meaningful. So among us humans, it may seem that everyone is the same, but the merits of one's own continuum and karmic connections from past lives are different. Some people want to be good individuals, good practitioners, good monastics, good people who spread the Dharma and benefit sentient beings. But in the end, their ideals are beautiful, yet their practice doesn't go smoothly as they'd hoped. Some people may have a pure mind, and they don't have grand ambitions, but the more they do, the better they become. The more they spread Dharma, benefit sentient beings, everyone's future different, varied, pursuing their own path. No matter what, we pray to the Guru and the 3 jewels, and do our best to give rise to bodhicitta. If we have even a little ability, we should benefit sentient beings. This is our goal, isn't it? Let us act in this way. This is the end of chapter 6. Sometimes explaining 5 verses a very long time, but sometimes 10 verses don't take that much time at all. That's all for today. Thank you all.
Bandara Banma Sodargye.